suspended. The entire team was sent into a 14-day home isolation period because of those results. The players have now completed their quarantine, and the team says everyone is symptom-free, but they will continue to follow the stay-at-home order. So some good news from, the Lakers that everyone is healthy right now and staying home.
And they're managing the crisis. This is what they're doing. They had a little crisis. They managed it. I say this again. We're not going to hide in our homes forever. We can't run from everything. I think social distancing through April is really smart, and I'm adhering to it. But the NBA, it's not immoral for them to consider bringing the season back. The Lakers are a prime example. Utah Jazz. Oh, we got a little crisis here. Let's quarantine. I mean, I like people who can manage problems, not complain about them, and the NBA's managing their way through this.
Well, the NBA, like everyone else, is dealing with the same exact thing. Everyone in the world is dealing with this same exact situation. So staying on top of it and having a plan, at least for your organization and your league, is very important right now. There's no need to panic, like we always say. We know what we need to do. So just follow the rules, and this is all temporary. So Washington has the second pick in the draft, as we know. While most believe they will select Chase Young, there's been some speculation that they could be interested in Tua instead. But former Washington quarterback Joe Theismann firmly believes that Young should be the pick, and they should pass on Tua.
Without hesitation, I take Chase Young for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think he's the best player in the draft. And there's an old adage when it comes to taking the best player in the draft. He's not a generational quarterback. Burrows might be, okay? I think so, but Tua is not. I'm not sold on the strength of his arm.
Joe Theismann is kind of like the unofficial spokesman
for Washington. Well, Chase Young probably is the one lock in the draft. Like, everybody knows he's going to work. He's one of those guys, it doesn't matter where he goes, it works.
He's going to be successful.
He goes to Cincinnati, he'd work. So, I think we've had a really good run in the last, 4 or 5 years of really, really good pass rushers. It kind of started with Khalil Mack, and Chase Young's, it seems like a lot of them come from Ohio State. Chase Young looks like, to me, there's about 5 guys in the draft that I know will be stars. He's at the top of the list.
Yeah, everyone agrees that Chase Young is the best prospect at any position. He's the best player in the draft. But there's so many teams that need quarterbacks. You can't just take Chase Young if you need a franchise quarterback. So we know that. Yeah. So I do think he's right. They are going to give Haskins another year. I don't necessarily know that I'd give Haskins another year. But if you don't necessarily believe in Tua, then this is the move. This is the move to make, and then you see what you have with Haskins, and you'll get another high draft pick next year. But they're also in a situation where they have a new coach who has some time to kind of work things out. They're not up against it. He's not worried about losing his.
With an improved defense, those wide receivers, and they use all these picks to upgrade running backs and O-line, he's going to win 7, 8, 9, 10 games. He's a good prospect. Good prospects into good spots win games. Carson Wentz was a really good prospect. Philadelphia is a well-run organization. Didn't take long for him to win games. Okay, Russell Wilson went to Pete Carroll. Smart guy, John Schneider. What do you know? First year, won games. Deshaun Watson, surrounded by good offensive pieces. Don't always love the Texans, but won games. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. Sat 1 year. Next year, won games. So if you trade Joe Burrow in your Cincinnati, you're almost guaranteed to be trading him to a better situation. Outside of Jacksonville, what's not better than Cincinnati having to face the Ravens twice, the Steelers twice, and that Browns filthy roster twice? So, and the other thing is, it's different than moving off Peyton Manning knowing he's going to win somewhere else. Because the Colts had a Super Bowl and division title, so they had equity with their fans. When the Colts, which I argue needed to move off Peyton Manning, they already had equity built up. When the Packers moved off Brett Favre, they had equity in a Super Bowl and division titles built up. Take the New Orleans Saints. So Joe Burrow was a star at LSU. Down the street, hour drive from New Orleans, Baton Rouge. If the Saints had somehow been able to get the number 1 pick this year, let's say, they worked a trade a year ago and they had the number 1 pick, and they passed on Joe Burrow, they have equity. Fans in New Orleans would be like, oh, I love Joe Burrow, but, our guys win Super Bowls and win division titles, and they know what they're doing with quarterbacks, and I'm okay with it. We got 8 picks. We're going to dominate the division forever. But there's no equity in Cincinnati. They finish third and fourth every year. They don't have the great ownership. They don't have the great front office or scouting department, so they have no equity built in. So if you have no equity built in, and then you move off the local kid and he wins elsewhere, you're going to get crushed. It's just a PR tsunami you'll never overcome. The reason the NFL can have the draft and free agency is they have so much equity built in from fans that we like the NFL. They've made us happy. Sometimes we bet the games. They've made us money. They have equity built in. So if they do free agency and get some blowback, they've got a lot of equity in it. The Colts with Peyton had equity. The Saints with Drew Brees have equity. By the way, if New England this year decides to get really young and experiment and loses 10 games, they've got equity. Bengals have none. Zero. So the idea of letting somebody like Burrow go where he'll flourish initially, it's just a PR mess that I can understand Cincinnati doesn't want to get into. I get it. I would 8 picks, I'd move him. But it's unfair for me to criticize Cincinnati and not at least add, some context to it. Local kid, had the great year, will sell tickets, and everywhere we move him would probably be a better situation than us, and he'll win immediately, and we don't want the blowback. Joy Taylor with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herdline News.
Jameis Winston got a lot of criticism for throwing a league-leading 30 interceptions last season, which is fair. But Bucs receiver Chris Godwin supports his former quarterback and says all of those picks weren't Jameis's fault.
I definitely think he got more of the blame than he deserved. Like I said, I think he's a really, really talented quarterback. Obviously, there's some things that he does that you can't teach, and there's some plays like that he made that just weren't smart plays. But a lot of the interceptions and the mistakes that he made, I would say like at least half of them were because of a bad read on somebody else's part. You know what I mean? And the great thing about him is he's not going to go up there. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's going to own up to it. He's going to take it, and he's going to be a leader. And like I said, like there's respect to that.
That sounds good, but he's been a big interception guy every year of his career.
Right.
So it'd be one thing if it was an outlier, like, oh, my God, he throws 9 picks a year, and now he had 30. But he also had 7 pick sixes. So, yeah.
Right, and that's at least 42 points for the other team.
In the NFL, where games are decided by 4, that's like 10. That's 10 games potentially.
Right. And look, neither one of us have watched the tape or broken it down to see if what Godwin is saying is accurate and it really was somebody else's fault. But the numbers speak for themselves, like you said, and it's what you are. Like
right.
It's consistent. And I think both of us kind of went into this season, and really since Bruce Arians got there, like, if Bruce Arians can't turn Jameis Winston around, then it kind of is what it is. And we know what Jameis is, and he's had his opportunity in the league with the team to be the face of a team and show what he can do. And I don't think that Jameis is done, obviously, but I just don't think he's consistent enough and makes smart enough plays to build your franchise around. And I wasn't a big fan of Jameis coming into the league. I felt like him and Mariota were kind of, I don't want to say overrated, but I just didn't love either one of them.
Yeah.
And now we know what Mariota is as well.
Yeah, by the way, so Tennessee, this league's a copycat league, Joey. Tennessee moves off Mariota and has a great year. So you don't think Tampa's looking at that? I mean, this league copies each other going, they came out in the same class. They've both been good at times, but kind of disappointing. And they moved off their guy and got way better. I think that's how this league thinks. I don't think the NBA is a copycat league. I think people do their own thing. It's individualistic. There's a lot of GMs that go one way, GMs go the other. But in the NFL, if you have 2 quarterbacks, Mariota and Jameis, come in the same draft, one team moves off theirs finally and has a great year. Tampa's reading the newspapers. They're seeing that going, Brady, Jameis, we're going to make a move here.
Right. Now, where he ends up will be interesting. I actually think he will end up with the Jaguars, who have the best odds at plus 225.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins plus 375, or plus 375. Yeah, I don't see him going there. Saints plus 375, Broncos plus 600, maybe.
Jacksonville.
And then the Steelers have been thrown out there a lot, plus 600.
But they denied it yesterday.
Yeah,
Steelers said it's not going to happen. Jacksonville makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that would give them 2 people in Gardner Minshew and Jameis. I don't have to love either, but they've both shown an ability to win games and be productive. Like, that's good enough until you get the right guy next year.
Right, and you don't have to make a big commitment to him.
Yeah.
All odds provided by Fox Bet. So 2 unnamed Lakers players were tested positive for coronavirus after the NBA season was